today I'll be telling you guys about the billion-dollar crop. Hemp, a powerful crop that can not only produce fuel, textiles, and paper, also creates a great deal of controversy. It is not legal to grow or make use of this plant in America. Hemp comes from strains of the plant Cannabis sativa, a plant that grows in hundreds of different varieties. This plant has astonishing capabilities. Hemp could make a huge impact on our world and improve the economic state of America. The great thing about this plant is that it's easy to grow, economically friendly, for every product of hemp is biodegradable. Hemp products include, but are not limited to, fiber, paper, products, and fuel. By agriculturally making use of hemp as a replacement for cotton, trees, and oil, these commodities can be produced at a lower ecological cost and provide environmental sustainability. Many decades ago, hemp was not frowned upon the way it is today in America. Hemp has been discovered and then forgotten by cultures a number of times. A use for hemp is unearthed, then replaced by technological advances, and hemp is buried once again. In fact, during the colonial era, hemp cultivation was important to America because of its use for rope and sailcloth. Once the cotton gin was invented, cotton dominated the fiber and cloth market, and the use of hemp was diminished. After that, hemp was a notable ingredient in many medicines. But once salicylic acid, the active ingredient in willow, could be synthesized, and the creation of aspirin skyrocketed and took over as a popular and cheap pain reliever. Because hemp's active ingredient, THC, was unable to be isolated, standardized, and synthesized, there was a noticeable decline in its use, and eventually the plant was no longer used again. Once again, hemp was forgotten. Plants containing high levels of THC are referred to as marijuana, and they are used to gain a high, much like alcohol, and sold on the illicit drug market. Because of this close relative to hemp, hemp and all other cannabis plants are now looked down upon by society. Although, if society took the time to learn about hemp and its history, they would learn that there are many valuable resources hemp can provide for us in an economically and environmentally friendly manner. Hemp is begging to be discovered as a billion-dollar crop. Industrial hemp is attractive to many farmers that are interested in practicing sustainable agriculture because for centuries, hemp has proven itself to be a dependable, low-maintenance crop. Hemp replenishes the soil with the nutrients that were borrowed for growth. Strong weed suppression or avoiding the growth of unwanted plants and shrubs is essentially guaranteed because of hemp's quick augmentation early on. Not only does the first crop suppress weeds, but this weed control carries over to the following crop, providing healthy, productive harvests year after year. Hemp is the least chemically dependent fiber crop, which means the cultivation requires no pesticides or herbicides. Pesticides and herbicides contaminate our air, food, water, and soil, and put not only our wildlife's health at risk, but also our own. This is an advantage for organic farms, and it reduces the cost of farming. The growth rate of hemp also makes it very desirable to farmers. If hemp is planted in well-drained, fertile soil under nearly optimum temperature and moisture conditions, it will germinate quickly. Hemp is easily grown and has been farmed for thousands of years. The USA cultivated the crop in the early 1800s, but soon after it was deemed illegal. This action was taken because of the very close plant relative, marijuana. Marijuana is a drug that is prohibited in the USA, and although there are vast differences between the plants, hemp remains guilty by association and continues to be illegal. America seems to be a few steps behind compared to the rest of the world. France, China, Holland, Switzerland, Ukraine, and many other countries have been facilitating the use of hemp as an industrial crop for many years. Over the past 2 decades, there has been a resurgence of industrial hemp production worldwide, and many countries have adopted strict regulatory procedures to allow low THC varieties, less than 0.3%, to be planted for fiber, oilseed, and biofuels as a replacement or addition to traditional agricultural crops. THC is a primary intoxicant compound in marijuana. A marijuana plant with 2% THC is very low grade and will not provide much intoxication at all, so a plant containing 0.3 or less is nothing in comparison. Unfortunately, the United States does not distinguish the differences between these two plants. The dissimilarities between mara and hemp can be seen even by the untrained eye. Yet the DEA, or Drug Enforcement Agency, is afraid that marijuana could be cultivated in the midst of hemp crops. However, they are not acknowledging that dense planting causes the hemp to grow straight and tall, which produce the long, straight fibers used for processing. Marijuana, in contrast, grows at wide intervals, which produces a bushier plant with more branches to increase the quantity of potent buds. The two plants do not grow well together. Although it is quite difficult to grow marijuana among hemp crops, the DEA still has their concerns. Actions such as farmer background checks, frequent inspections, and mapped out hemp plots could be taken to ensure that hemp is the only crop being cultivated on any given plot. It is plausible to believe that our legal system is capable of implementing strict law enforcement to prevent illegal drug growth while authorizing the industrial harvesting of hemp. The strain of cannabis that is ideal in the illicit drug market is one which does not have seeds. With the introduction of large-scale commercial cannabis cultivation, the pollen produced by the non-psychoactive plants would pollinate the illicit marijuana, thus producing seed and reducing its value on the illicit drug market. With the legalization of industrial hemp, many conventional resources would ultimately be replaced, such as another more commonly known fiber crop, cotton. Most of you are wearing cotton right now and sleep on cotton sheets. But do we really know how it's made and understand the environmental effects from this crop? Cotton does not have the most upstanding reputation. This crop has been associated with oppressive working conditions, which ultimately led to the first industrial revolution, overwielding of chemicals which contaminate our water and air, and largely the overuse and waste of water. As we know, hemp requires no herbicides or pesticides, unlike cotton, which can use up to 1/3 of a pound of synthetic fertilizers to grow just 1 pound of usable fiber. Cotton heavily relies on the greatest amount of pesticides out of all production crops. By farming hemp instead of cotton, we can reduce agriculture chemicals while keeping farmland productive. Hemp yields are 25% greater than cotton, respectively. Also, hemp requires much less water than cotton and has a shorter growing period, which are about 120 days on average, in comparison to cotton growing periods which are about 160 days. Because hemp is so easily grown, reduces pollution, and saves water, it would be a promising alternative to cotton, the most common fiber crop. Cotton and its products, however, are not the only resource that could be replaced by hemp. Hemp can also be used for paper products, which would eliminate the use of trees. The entire world is struggling with the issue of saving our natural primary forests. Not only do those trees supply most of our wood products, but all paper products as well. Hacking down these woodlands don't just harm trees, but they also wipe out entire habitats. We in the United States have been overcutting forests in a non-sustainable manner when we could be relying on annual crops to meet the majority of our industrial fiber needs. The crop that we could and should be using is hemp. Hemp can produce 3 to 4 times more usable fiber per 100 acres per year than forests. Paper recycling, a practice that was fashioned exclusively to try to compensate for the cutting down of primary forests, would be unnecessary if we used hemp instead of trees. Technically speaking, one doesn't need to recycle hemp paper because it is a renewable raw material. Internationally, forests are being cut down at a rate more rapidly than they can regrow. Hemp is a crop that we can afford to cut down and regrow annually. By developing hemp instead of cutting down trees, we do not interfere on any instinctive habitats that provide shelter, food, and security for numerous animals that populate these wooded areas. It seems like a straightforward concept, but in actuality, the nation's population must be in the same mind that hemp should be cropped and utilized. If the nation should come to that consensus and the demand for hemp grew larger and stronger than the alternatives, it would be more sought out after cropped by the farmers. Without a reliable market for raw hemp fiber, farmers will be reluctant to grow hemp. After people discover that hemp not only could replace cotton, but also help diminish our dependence on forests, there might possibly start recognizing hemp as a crop that could change the world on a large scale by eventually replacing oil. Globally, we are dependent on oil on a day-to-day basis. Oil surrounds us. Almost everything relies on petroleum in this day and age. A few examples of what we use oil for are fuels, plastics, carpets, glues, resins, and pesticides. This is an ongoing problem for our oceans, soil, air, and human health. Not only are countries battling one another for this expensive resource, we are slowly using the last of our supply, and it is time to find an alternative. The U.S. has plenty of land to spare to cultivate hemp, which only needs a small portion of our farmable land mass. The United States mass is approximately 3,540,000 square miles. Energy needs could be met by converting 6% of the landmass to hemp cultivation. 6% of our nation's total landmass is roughly 212,000 square miles. That is still only about 28% of the farmland. This is the 28% graph, which is about 743,000 square miles. From this 6% of total landmass, not only could we produce fiber and paper products, but also cultivate enough hemp as a biomass to produce fuel for the entire nation. Through pyrolysis, a thermochemical breakdown of organic material at heightened temperatures without the use of oxygen, hemp could be made into charcoal. Charcoal is useful for stationary power generation, to petroleum-like distillates, and to the gases hydrogen and carbon monoxide, which combine to form methanol, which can be used as an auto fuel. Many different parts of the hemp plant can be utilized for energy. Hemp seed oil can be converted into biodiesel, and hemp cellulose can be converted into ethanol. Hemp as a biomass could eventually eliminate our dependency on oil, which could save the nation money, provide a greener fuel source, and reduce our reliance on other countries for oil. There is hope for our extraordinary crop to ultimately replace these conventional resources. Hemp could largely help kickstart not only our nation, but the rest of the world into the green movement. Many countries besides America have acknowledged the difference between marijuana and hemp. In 29 countries, the cultivation of hemp is legal and marijuana is not. It is about time America makes a transition to this very useful, multi-purpose crop. Hemp can change the way we produce textiles and other fiber products, paper products, and largely substitute oil. Also, the cultivation of this crop will help our nation save money and save our planet's environmental condition. The United States of America is a very influential nation, and any steps we take towards a healthier, prosperous state of being will hopefully encourage other countries to do the same.